We're living in the great poisoning because your immune system is affected by environmental toxins, stress, electromagnetic fields, chronic infections. All these things are having an influential factor on your immune system. Like you said, it's the surveillance system.
We don't realize how much policing of our own physiology the immune system does. It's not only protecting the community, it's also policing the community. And as it loses its function, community starts to misbehave. Where do you see the immune system's role in things like cancer?
People think you just wake up one day and have cancer, but actually cancer is about a 10-year process. And if you were being diagnosed with cancer, that relying on the conventional surgical chemo radiation, it's not a good protocol because every one of those aspects is damaging to the system.
Most conventional treatments were just attacking the cancer. Forget that there's a human being here, and it's okay to try to build them up while you're also trying to tear down the cancer.
Do the grounding, do the things that help balance our human electrical field.
The truth is the earth has a magnetic field, and when you connect with it, we discharge into the earth.
The other things, they call it forest bathing, just being around nature. That is true medicine.
If I want to live a cancer-free life, what does that look like?
I think the most simple thing that anyone can do is
Hey guys, welcome back to the Ultimate Human Podcast. I'm your host, human biologist Gary Brecka, where we go down the road of everything anti-aging, biohacking, longevity, and everything in between. And today, coming to you live from Saudi Arabia, which is why I'm in a suit, because I just got off the stage in Saudi Arabia. We have a phenomenal physician, MD, author on the podcast today. I'm so excited to go down the road with. In fact, we started a podcast before the podcast even started. And I said, let's just save this for the audience because it's so good. But welcome to the podcast, Dr. Connealy.
Thank you for having me, Gary.
I'm super happy to have you. And, before we started the cameras rolling, you said we can talk about everything from functional wellness to stage 4 cancer and everything in between, which I find really fascinating. You made a statement about a report that came out historically. And we were talking about the fact that it's called alternative medicine now. Anything that's other than mainstream medicine, pharmaceuticals, synthetics, chemicals, anything other than that status quo is called alternative medicine, but it wasn't always that way.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Actually, prior to the Flexner report.
And what was the Flexner report?
The Flexner report came out in like 1910. And Rockefeller and Carnegie basically said, oh, we can patent medicines. And so before that came out, all doctors knew how to make potions and compounded and used homeopathy because there were no medications.
Right.
And so they said, oh, that's all quack. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to start building new medical schools and we're going to teach them what to think and how to think.
And so this was cognitive. I mean, it was commissive. It was intentional. In other
words, it was very intentional.
Yeah.
And they basically said, all the way we practiced then is not going to be, we are going to be doing a new way, a new paradigm in medicine.
And the new paradigm in medicine happens to line our pockets.
Right. Well,
this is just a coincidence.
Yeah. Well, we have the medical industrial complex and they influence every aspect of our lives.
I'm surprised to hear you say that as an MD. Not many MDs are as woke to that as you are. I hate that word woke, but as aware of that as you are, right?
Well, my journey started a long time ago. I was number 3 of 6 children.
Okay.
Or I am rather, number 3 of 6 children. Grew up in Houston, Texas. My mother was pregnant with me and she started bleeding. And she went to the doctor and they said, we have a medication called DES, diethylstilbestrol. It's a very potent synthetic estrogen. So that was given to my mother to prevent miscarriage and stop the bleeding. When I'm a teenager in Houston, my parents receive a letter stating this medication caused increased incidence of cancer, hormone problems, infertility, anatomical problems, etc.
In her?
No, in the offspring of both male and female offspring of mothers who consume DES.
Wow.
So they said, you need to go to a cancer institute to get evaluated and checked. So I grew up in Houston, Texas. The most famous institution probably in the world is MD Anderson.
Right.
It's actually a country in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was a teenager going to get exams by a plethora of people because they'd never seen anything. So they wanted to examine you, do biopsies, etc. So that's how my journey started.
And this was at what age?
16.
16, you're already doing cancer screening.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
Because of this medication that was...
Cancer screening, all kinds of screening. Okay. And like, your menstrual cycles, your hormones, etc. And so they followed me for several years. And so then they said, you need to be checked every year because one of the cancers was a special kind of vaginal cancer.
And can I ask if you had complications from that you're aware of?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually. So at the time, I was diagnosed with dysplasia. Okay. So you have normal cells, dysplasia, and cancer. Mm-hmm. Then I never had
pre-cancer, like Barrett's esophagitis.
Exactly. Then I never had 2 periods in a row in my life.
Wow.
Okay. So, of course, they want to put you on birth control pills. Mm-hmm. And then I found progesterone. And so I became a hormonal expert because your hormones were affected by everything.
Plus, you're starting hormones before, at that age, you don't even know what a hormone is. You have no training at all.
Exactly.
But at least you have some kind of explanation. You have a villain for why things are not going like the rest of your friends.
Right.
Right.
And so then I didn't, properly ovulate. So I had to go see infertility specialists to have my children. Mm-hmm. So
how many children do you have?
I have 3 kids.
Okay.
And then...
Which one's your favorite? Just kidding.
Well, my daughter...
I have 3 kids too, so...
My daughter says...
Mine change all the time.
And I told her, I said, no mother has a favorite child. You love them all.
My daughter would argue with that. She would say, it's your firstborn daughter. And then my middle son would say, it's always the secondborn. My third doesn't really care. So...
yeah. And then one of the other most impactful things is I had scoliosis. That wasn't diagnosed until my college physical. And so I tried everything.
I remember the college physical. You bent over in front of the PE teacher and they're like, oh, you got scoliosis. Right. I remember doing that.
But I'm a lot older than you. And so it was not as profound a physical other than they did probably do good histories and physicals there because the doctors had time. Right. So that prompted me to look at the, complete musculoskeletal aspect of a human, plus all the emotional aspects, spiritual aspects.
You started looking at this in college?
No. When I was through the process of living, because you go to doctors and they want to do surgery, and I didn't want to do surgery.
Oh my gosh, scoliosis surgery back then is awful.
Yeah, back then.
A lot of it was rods.
And I had done rotation in orthopedic surgeries. And so I had got a consult just for exploration. And I said, no, thank you. I'm
fine without the rods.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then when I turned 60, I thought, okay, I better figure something out because as we age, things change. So I decided to contact all the doctors in the US, and then I explored Europe and Germany. And the German doctors are amazing because they usually are combination natural, integrative, functional with, the conventional. And I found a world-class expert and I flew to Germany 6.5 years ago.
Now, world-class expert in scoliosis.
Yes.
Okay.
He trained the doctors in US at Mayo and everywhere else.
Wow.
And he was a mechanical engineer and a surgeon.
Oh, that's so helpful. Yeah.
Yes.
He understands the rotary twisting of the spine, the compression, but also what happens if you quote unquote correct and put a normal kyphosis and lordosis into a spine that hasn't been normal its entire life. Because, I've heard of very severe complications for people that were asymptomatic with scoliosis and then had surgical correction and then became severely symptomatic.
Correct.
Afterwards.
Well, most back surgeries, probably 90% of back surgeries, patients still have the pain. So if you read the book John Sarno by Dr. John Sarno, he talks about that.
He does.
And he talks about the emotional aspect.
So what was the transition? Because you're a classic trained medical doctor. Where'd you go to medical school, if you don't mind me asking?
At Chicago Medical School.
Okay, so Chicago Medical School, very classic medical school.
Correct.
And you're a classic trained physician. What was the transition like for you to what I would call functional medicine? Because, when I look at your CV and I look at the books that you've written, and, the Cancer Revolution, Be Perfectly Healthy, these are not targeting pharmaceutical intervention, chemicals, synthetics. So what was the transition to functional medicine? Was it because in your practice, you weren't having the outcomes you wanted, or was this related to your childhood journey?
Actually, both. First of all, my mother was really natural. So we had raw milk. We ate liver. We ate
Good for her.
pate.
Wow.
We ate sauerkraut. We ate organs. So that is how I grew up.
Wow.
Okay.
Organs are so nutrient dense.
Yes. So I grew up like that. And then when I was in training and I remember delivering babies, and my first baby that I had to deliver by myself, I had to do an episiotomy.
Oh God, that's going to be so scary.
And I had to do an episiotomy. And here I am. My attendant physician said, okay, give the anesthetic and then, cut. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so barbaric. How could a woman go through something like that? And then I'm a new young doctor and I'm looking at the tissues and I'm like, okay, now how am I going to put this all back together? Yes. So here I am sweating. The babies always come at 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yeah, always.
And I'm sitting there cutting and sewing back up. And I was like, okay, no, this is not the way we're going to deliver babies. So I went and read and studied and said, okay, I can get the patients to breathe and I can massage the perineum. So never again did I do another episiotomy.
Really?
Just by talking to the mother, asking them to breathe while I massage the perineum.
Wow.
So because I just
a
thought,
light bulb went off.
Yes. And I think the first thing you have to think about as a doctor is, how do I not harm my patient? Okay.
Yeah.
And you also have to put yourself in the patient's shoes, right? Become the patient itself.
Yeah.
And my journey has really taught me how, in medical school, they teach you what to think and the knowledge that you need to know.
Right.
But living the book is a whole nother experience.
Right. And so
So then I wanted to start out my practice. And so I had a physician who said, okay, I'm going to give you $50,000 to start your practice. I believe in you.
That was nice.
And so he was in Houston, Texas. He was an internist and pathologist. So he really knew the human body like no other. So he says, you have to teach your patients lifestyle. Okay.
Right.
And the best way to get patients.
What time frame is this?
1986.
He was talking about lifestyle changes.
Yes.
Good for him.
About keeping record, patients would keep record of their eating and their exercise and how to look at their blood work and how to look at their metabolism and assessing thyroid function.
That was way
and
out there in 1986.
Yes. And so he taught me a lot. Okay. And then I remember studying this. You may not remember this book, but it's called The Scarsdale Diet. Okay.
I do remember that.
Yes. And so anyway, I started studying every, eating book, because what is the number one thing that usually people need to address is their weight, right?
Yes.
And so anyway, I hired a registered dietitian who was a recovering anorexic. So I'm like, what perfect person to assist and help and support patients. So she and I were a team along with my staff. And then patients started asking me, oh, Dr. Connealy, do you know about DHEA? And do you know about this? And do you know about that? And I'm like, no, let me go explore. And then one thing led to another to where I am today.
Wow.
Exploring everything that.
What's the foundation of your practice today? How would you describe your practice?
Well, we treat everything from human optimization to stage 4 cancer.
Wow.
And our goal is to de-diagnose you.
Wow. What does that mean?
So what that means is the typical medical doctor gets paid by how many diagnoses, and the more the diagnosis and time, the better the reimbursement is.
Right.
And so you might have hypertension, you might have diabetes or cancer or whatever. And so we try to teach the patient how to create health. And I'm the teacher, I'm the educator, along with my team. I don't do it by myself.
Right.
And so I do an elaborate history and physical. And then I do elaborate blood work, looking at everything from common things to uncommon things.
So what are common things are like CBC,
chemistry,
comprehensive
CBC, and doctors are obsessed with cholesterol.
Right.
And so that would be that. But they don't check the C-reactive protein, the nonspecific marker for inflammation. Even though pre-diabetes and diabetes is high, they don't check hemoglobin A1C.
Wow.
They don't check vitamin D levels.
Insulin.
They don't check, fasting insulin and fasting sugar. They don't check your SED rate, which is another marker for inflammation. They don't check thyroid and complete thyroid function. They don't check like DHEA sulfate, which is the hormone of stress, immune, and longevity.
And a precursor for other hormones.
Yes. And then, pregnenolone. And then in women,
another precursor for hormones.
Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone in both males and females. They don't check immune status. You want to know what the immune system, because all diseases are related to the functionality of the immune system.
Wow, that is such a fascinating statement. I talk about a question that I got on a podcast. It was either a podcast or a stage talk not too long ago. And it was a fascinating question. They said, if you were to put the top 50 leading experts in the world in a room, PhDs, the MDs, the researchers, and you were to ask them to agree on one theory of aging, what theory would that be? And I was like, wow, that's a really tough question. And I said, I think they would all agree on the theory of immunofatigue, a slow, progressive overwhelming of the immune system. So I want to draw attention to that because I think most people think the immune system's sole role is to protect us, which it does, from things, pathogens, viruses, bacteria, what have you. But a large role of the immune system is to police ourselves, right? We don't realize how much policing of our own physiology the immune system does. Senescent cells, circulating tumor cells, effectively supporting good DNA methylation. All of these things that are going on, the immune system is that watchdog. So it's not only protecting the community, it's also policing the community. And as it loses its function, right, community starts to misbehave.
Right.
Just like if you don't have rules and regulations in any community, they would come unraveled.
If you want protein to build lean muscle, but without the caloric impact or need to cut, you need Perfect Amino. It's pure essential amino acids, the building blocks of proteins, in a precise form and ratio that allows for near 100% utilization in building lean muscle and no caloric impact. So we build protein 6 times as much as whey, but without the excess body fat we normally get during bulking. This is the new era of protein supplementation, and it's real. If you want to build lean muscle without having to cut, you need Perfect Amino. Now let's get back to the Ultimate Human podcast.
Can we unpack that for a minute?
Sure.
So where do you see the immune system's role in things like cancer, onset of cancer, stage 1 to stage 4? Where do you see the immune system's role as a part of somebody's wellness journey?
Well, with anybody, the
and how do we
immune
evaluate
system.
It? Yeah.
Okay. So I do an immune function panel by a lab called Cyrex.
Okay.
And Dr. Vajani, who's been the head of that laboratory, has been around for a very long time. And so this is a phenomenal way to look at your T cells, B cells, your natural killer cells, and all the different ratios. And so you talk about immune system and cancer. So, but we talked about it earlier that the immune system plays a role in aging, whether you're going to get, an infectious disease, heart disease, Alzheimer's, any disease, right? And so we want to look at the immune system to see all the different things that we can do to correct it, to optimize.
That's what I'm interested in. So this Cyrex panel will tell you, not just like a CBC tells you, well, here's your neutrophils and basophils, eosinophils, monocytes, all of that. And we usually use those as markers to tell what kind of infection you have. If you have an infection, is it bacterial? Is it viral? Is it something different? But this is a much deeper dive.
Yes.
This is actually looking at the complex structure of the immune system.
Correct.
And how do you weigh the health of the immune system? How do you say, wow, here's we're going to zero in on this, and this is something that we need to fix.
Right. But because your immune system is affected by environmental toxins, stress,
So happy you say that.
Heavy metals, electromagnetic fields, chronic infections, all of these things impact the immune system. So first of all, there's the aging part of we start aging around 30. So we need to start paying attention then. And then the immune cells, depending on all the different environment of the patient, we have the epigenetics, everything that's influenced the genes up until this point, whether you're 30, 50, or 80 years old, what you eat, what you put in your mouth, what you're exposed to. So all these things are having an influential factor on your immune system. Like you said, it's the police, it's the surveillance system. Wow. So it's taking everything in, your entire environment in.
Yeah.
And so then we want to remove the offending things so that the immune system can take care of you. And then we can do immune support also.
Yeah.
There's all different things we can do.
So what are some things that we can do to support our immune system? Because if you're listening to this podcast and you buy off on the fact that the immune system has this role in policing ourselves, which it does, and you've evaluated it, what does a healthy immune lifestyle look like?
Well, I would say the first and foremost thing is your state of mind. So you need to have a PMA every day, regardless of what curveballs and detours are thrown at you. So a PMA of a positive mental attitude. Okay. And because, no day is going to come without something. There's always something. Okay. But setting our mind and being conscious of our thoughts and how we're going to live today is paramount to how the day is going to go. So the first thing you could possibly do before you literally leap out of bed, you should be talking about affirmations. Affirmations. Thank you, God, for invincible healing today.
Wow.
Thank you, God, for divine protection of my children today. Thank you, God, that I was literally able to wake up today and live and discover life.
Just that gratitude right out of the gate. So instead of grabbing onto the past and bringing yesterday's problems forward, you wake up and you start with gratitude and a positive outlook, rather than it's fascinating because certainly not so many years ago, that would have been considered just straight voodoo science. But we know now that the way that we think and we frame things has an influence on our nervous system, even, our autonomic nervous system, the one that's controlling, heavily influencing the immune system, also heavily influencing whether we're in the state of fight or flight or we're in the state of rest and digest. And the patterns that we think about all the time, Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot, frame how our nervous system follows up and says, wow, we have a lot to worry about today. Things are a disaster. There's so much to be afraid of. Let's stay in fight or flight, right? Let's lock ourselves into sympathetic. So we are ready for this fight.
Ready for the tiger.
Yeah, ready for the tiger, right? I'm laying in the cage, in the cave, and I woke up and there's a saber-tooth tiger right in my face, right? And so the immune system, because of the way the autonomic nervous system works, because of the way that we think, the autonomic nervous system gets locked in this state. What does that do to the immune system?
Well, when you're in a sympathetic nervous system, like you talked about, there's two aspects, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The parasympathetic, when rest and healing take place. Sympathetic is you're in just extreme rigor and, your body's making tons of cortisol. And then what does cortisol do? Creates lots of inflammation, creates the progression of diseases.
So you can help arm your immune system by waking up in the morning and consciously practicing positive affirmations. Love that. I agree totally with that. And because there's no measurable way to track your thoughts, people don't put a lot of credence into that, but we really do have a lot of control over the state that our body is in. Like, do I feel safe in my body? I have a theory that the reason why the vast majority of autoimmune disease is found in women, about 82% of autoimmune disease affects women, is because they bear the weight of the world on their shoulders. They have a tendency to have what we used to call in the mortality space caregiver syndrome,
right?
Where they just put the needs of other people in front of them, their spouse, their career, their kids, what have you. And eventually this sort of got to perform. I have so many people to take care of. The family will fall apart without me. Self-care becomes non-existent. And then bang, they get hit with an autoimmune disease out of nowhere.
I agree with you. The mother is the ultimate caretaker, right? And like you said, the way I grew up, my mother was home and with the 6 kids, but I'm a woman that's been working.
6 kids a lot. She had caregiver syndrome for sure.
Yeah. But I worked and also caregiver. Okay. But you're right. It's a tremendous commitment, a tremendous dedication. And especially in this day and time with the health concerns of humanity, now people are taking care of their parents, they're taking care of their children. And so that's why this movement of functional integrative medicine is critical. And I say, you mentioned about self-care. Self-care is the new healthcare.
Love that.
And so, it's very important that we teach all of this to people because we are all living together. We're all interconnected.
Yeah.
And so we directly affect each other.
Guys, early access is finally here, and I could not be more excited to launch the ultimate filtered shower head from Cold Life. You've heard me say it before. Your skin is the largest organ in your body, and it is not a barrier, it is a gateway. Every single day, it absorbs chlorine, fluoride, PFAs, and heavy metals straight from your tap. This shower head eliminates those toxins instantly, and it's the simplest way to protect your health, doing something you're already doing every single day. It installs in 60 seconds, it has incredible water pressure, and it's finally live. Go check it out now and use my code ULTIMATE10 for 10% off. Be one of the first to experience the ultimate shower head.
Now let's get back to the Ultimate Human podcast.
So how does it, how do I progress throughout the day?
Okay.
So I wake up and
so you wake up.
Affirmations.
And so like personally, I wake up and have a green drink.
Okay.
And then in
like
the
a
green,
matcha?
No, just a juice, green juice.
Oh, green juice.
So I do a green juice and I put vitamin C and coenzyme Q10 and curcumin and my little silica and everything. And then I go to the gym do a workout, primarily weights. And then I come back, shower, make organic coffee, catch up on emails for about 10 minutes, and then get ready for work. And usually on the way to work, I use it as a time of just calmness and peacefulness, continue affirmations of gratitude.
Wow.
And then I meet with my team at 8 a.m., go through whatever issues we need to do. And then I start seeing patients at 9 a.m. And then from 9 to 12:31, see patients. And then I usually go outside and get sunshine.
Good for you.
And so then start patients 2 to 5, 5:30. And then I go finish up whatever, lots of charting and lots of messages, etc. And then I'm able to go home. My husband nicely cooks dinner for me. And,
that's a good hobby. Is he with you in Saudi right now?
No, he isn't.
He came solo.
Yes. And so, I didn't come solo. I came with my daughter. But
okay.
And so then I eat dinner quiet. We have a nice, good dinner quietly. And then I like to do some breathing. So breathing reset my nervous system.
Yeah.
And so I usually go in the living room and do some breathing and relaxation. And I have a healing blanket. I have all these little different things that I use at my house.
Right.
And then I always tell patients that your day begins when you go to sleep.
It does. I totally agree with that.
And so you need to prepare for your sleep. So I get prepared, all the vitamins and everything that,
what do you take for sleep? Magnesium or?
Magnesium. And I take 5 milligrams of melatonin.
Okay.
I take pancreatic enzymes. I take my progesterone. And
great for sleep.
Yes. And so that's pretty much what I take. Hydrogen water before bed.
Oh, good. I'm a huge fan of hydrogen water. We got hydrogen water on the table right here. I'm a huge fan of H2 Tab. I take them every day, and it's made a game changer of a difference for me on the road, especially with especially changing time zones so much, because we're 7 hours ahead here. right? So
Right.
I feed myself in the same window. So I won't start eating today until 1 o'clock. And then we have this podcast. So I probably won't start eating until 3 o'clock. And I think it's okay to be hungry. People are just so afraid of hunger. We eat at the first pang of hunger. We just constantly feed ourselves from 6 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, a lot of times. But I want to unpack the cancer revolution because everybody listening to this podcast, if they haven't been affected by cancer, they know someone that's affected by cancer, very likely a family member. Just given the statistics of 5 and 10. Well,
1 and 2 people.
1 and 2, yeah.
Right.
5 and 10, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So there's virtually no chance that someone listening to this has not been exposed to this disease. So what is the cancer revolution about? What makes it unique?
Right. So Cancer Revolution is a book of literally how cancer works. Okay. And people think you just wake up one day and have cancer, but actually cancer is about a 10-year process. And you won't develop a tumor manifestation probably about year 8 at 1 billion cancer cells, about the size of a marble.
Okay.
And so in our conventional world, the screening for cancer is really Cologuard at 45 for a men and a woman mammogram around 40 years old and Cologuard. And that's really the only cancer screening really that we have.
Right.
And so this is all exhaustive list of testing that can be done to prevent cancer and or possibly diagnose cancer.
To detect it, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I go through all the laboratory testing and then I go through all the imaging testing. And then I talk about every chapter. It's going to be one on sleep, on movement, on stress, on purification, on immune system, on voltage and everything.
Wow. Can we talk about voltage for a minute? Because that's fascinating to me. Are you talking about scalar energy? Are you talking about the absence of EMFs, electromagnetic frequency that interrupts
Well,
our cells?
that is one energy.
Yeah.
Electromagnetic fields are one energy, but the actual cell has a voltage. So, and it's
And
controlled
cancer is a
daily.
decrease in voltage.
Correct,
Yeah.
because your pH is about 7.43. And so when the cells become acidic and we go into a very inefficient form of the oxidative metabolism of the cell, we have typically oxidative phosphorylation named after Dr. Krebs, the Krebs cycle. And so
I hated him in biology class, but now I love him because I hated learning the Krebs cycle, but so much comes down to the Krebs cycle and mitochondrial function.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable. I've actually had to go back and relearn it,
Right. So it's a very inefficient form of glycolysis. And so you normally make 36 ATP, and the inefficient form is 2 ATP. And so you have something produced called hypoxic inducible factor, which makes lactic acid. So our body becomes acidic. And so when our body becomes acidic, the voltage of the cell goes down. So all of our cells emanate 0.07 millivolts of energy. And so if we don't have voltage, then we can't have energy for the cell, just like a battery.
Yeah.
And so it's very important because these patients now, they're 10 years into cancer, maybe 12 years, right?
Right.
Because they might have been diagnosed 5 years ago and they're now fighting for their life.
Right.
So we're really behind, right? So it's very important to, provide the energy that the cell needs.
How do I restore voltage back to a cell? Because first of all, I totally agree with you. We know that cancer is a drop in voltage, and voltage, just to explain it to folks, there's a 2-layered membrane around the cell. It's called the phospholipid bilayer. And the charges across this membrane are how cells exchange nutrients and eliminate waste and bring things into the cell and throw things out of the cell. And as you lose voltage, it's like losing the battery power in your car.
That's
eventually it doesn't have enough power to turn the engine over to crank start it, right? And this is a slow progressive. You don't have a rapid drop in voltage. Just over time, the voltage is dropping and the cell is becoming metabolically sick. And the commonality with all cancers is that they were at one time a healthy cell, right?
That's
It's
correct.
a shift in the metabolism of the cell. And so if I want to live a cancer-free life and I want to improve the voltage in my cells, what does that look like? We have positive affirmations. It's just that's a great lifestyle,
Right.
Tip. But when you find that you have this reduced voltage, or without even checking that this person has been in a constant state of stress, they have high inflammatory markers, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, SED rates, what have you. Where do you start on walking somebody out of that?
I think the most simple thing that anyone can do is go outside, take their shoes off, and be barefoot on sand, grass.
You're in danger of a man hug for me, because I tell people to do that all the time, and I get so much flack for talking about grounding as it being voodoo science. But the truth is, the earth has a low Gauss current.
Right.
It has a magnetic field.
Right.
And when you connect with it, we discharge into the earth.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's the simplest thing anyone can do everywhere, anytime, can do that.
Yeah. So. If our combustion engine wasn't recharging the battery while we were driving the car, eventually starting that car would just drain the voltage. Right. Now it can't operate. And it's a very good analogy for what happens with the drop in voltage in cells. And so touching the surface of the earth. And what else?
Well, the other things that you can do, just sunshine, just getting in sunshine provides energy to the cell, because all the cells have biophotons. And then the other things, be around nature. Nature is, they call it forest bathing.
In Eastern medicine, they have forest bathing.
Just being around nature, the trees, the grass, the clean air, all of it's amazing that just that alone with electrons, running water, waterfalls.
That's why we feel so good by the ocean.
Yes.
Right? All those ions in the air. It's medicine.
Right. So that is true medicine. Now, if I have a patient in the clinic, I will use something called a biomodulator. And the biomodulator was a device developed by Dr. Tennant. And Dr. Tennant he's 86 or 87 years old now. He was an ophthalmologist who got an eye infection from one of his surgical procedures. And he was sick for like 6 years.
Wow.
And he slept 18 hours a day and studied 3 hours a day. And he wrote a phenomenal book called The Healing is Voltage. And so he created a biomodulator, which is a device that has the frequencies built in. And with basically, it looks like a charging station, kind of like a Tesla.
Yeah.
And so I have patients do that. And then I also in my clinic have something called the biocharger. Also,
I'm familiar with that too. It kind of reminds me of the old the little lamps that I had in the 80s that you put your hands on.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Remember those?
Yes.
They had like the glass bubble and the stem in the middle.
That's true.
And it was the coolest thing, because you'd put your hand on there and you wouldn't feel the electricity, but you'd see it all. The static electricity going into your hand. And those and lava lamps were like the rage in the 80s. If you have one of those, you had a cool bedroom,
If you know me, you know I'm a huge believer in the benefits of hydrogen water. H2 Tab delivers cost-effective portable tablets that generate ultra-clean molecular hydrogen at 12 parts per million, one of the highest concentrations on the market. With over 1,300 published studies showing benefits of oxidative stress, energy, recovery, brain function, and so much more, taking charge of your health has never been easier or more cost-effective. Just drop a tablet in water, let it dissolve, and drink it back. It's less than $1 a day, science-backed and part of my daily routine. I never travel without this, and it is my favorite biohack. Visit drinkhh2tab.com. That's drinkhh2tab.com and upgrade your hydration today.
Now let's get back to the Ultimate Human podcast.
So restoring the voltage, and you talk about this in the book.
Yes.
And fundamentally, where does we talked about mindset, we actually talked about basic principles, which I love that you, as a classically trained MD, have found your way back to a lot of the basics: touching the surface of the earth, sunlight, breath work, grounding. I agree with you on forest bathing. I have no evidence to support it, other than I know that when my wife and I go, we have a log cabin in Colorado, and when I go out there, if I throw on a 20-pound rucksack or 15-pound rucksack and I go for a 3-mile walk in the woods, when I get back, I feel like I won the lottery, like I took a limitless pill. I'm just clear. Right. I'm focused. it's hard to describe. Like my emails make more sense to me. I feel more stress resilient, and so it's no surprise to me that, Eastern medicine has had this for centuries, where they would actually prescribe forest bathing.
Yes.
And I think our connection with nature and our connection with each other is just so sadly missing that this aids in the drop in voltage. And what else does the book explore? Because I think it's so necessary for people to read this book.
Yeah, I talk about the immune system and all the different things that affect the immune system and all the different things that you can do to support and enhance the optimization of the immune system.
And what would be like top 3?
Besides the basics that we already talked about, okay, so number 1 would be purification. You got to get the toxins out. So people can do baths, Epsom salt, baking soda, clay baths. They can do infrared sauna. They can do liver flushes. They can do cleansings. There's all different kind of cleanses out there. But a lot of times people
lowering the toxic load.
Yeah, exactly. People can do fasting. Fasting is, doesn't cost anything. It's simple to do. You can do intermittent fasting, 2-day-a-week fasting. I've had patients it's all different kinds of fasting. Okay. But fasting also can have a stress level. So you want to make sure that you pick the patient that can do it and handle it, as opposed to just, one size fits all with patients, right?
Yeah.
So then also addressing people, you talked earlier about the electromagnetic fields. And I think people aren't really aware of electromagnetic fields. Computers were rushed in, cell phones, satellites, etc., have been rushed into
5G, Wi-Fi.
Yes, everything. And there hasn't been really a check and balance, and just like many other things. And so I think that has a profound effect, because you're talking about the energy of the cell. And so these are an energy, okay? And they're affecting the cell, okay? They're actually affecting the calcium ion channels, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
The influx and efflux of the cell membrane. And so we know that EMFs cause the disruption in these calcium ion channels. And so we're bathing in it. We're living in it, okay? We have it attached to us. And this is, carcinogenic, okay? And so it's a pervasive problem. And so I don't think it's going to go away.
No.
But I think that you can create some safety measures. Like you sleep, it's the time where everything happens. The magic happens when you sleep.
I totally agree.
So if you could create a sanctuary, so I personally turn off the electricity to my bedroom.
That's great.
And I sleep in a Faraday cage.
I do too.
In fact,
Silver fabric.
Right, exactly. So you do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I like here, because I was very concerned about the electromagnetic fields. So I brought my meter, and actually I checked our entire room, and actually they're very low EMFs. And it's probably because of the walls are very thick. The cement walls kind of dampen
Buffer
it.
that.
Yes.
Commercial construction does too, because conduit helps to
And
block a lot of that.
And then I did bring a cocoon to sleep in.
Is that the Dr. Mercola one?
No, actually. So one of my patients, she's a patient, a friend, and founder of a company called Tech Wellness. And she is a freak too about
like you and I.
Yes, about electromagnetic fields. And so she said, I'm going to make this for you, because I told her I can't sleep in hotels. And so anyway, so I think people just don't look at things like an enemy. I feel like it's like it lowers your vibration, right? So look, how do we cooperate with this? And what can we do? Like drinking hydrogen water is great for this kind of thing. Taking magnesium, making sure you're taking plenty of minerals, but just be aware. And like, I don't personally wear a cell phone like most young people do.
Right.
You probably don't wear your cell phone probably, but if you do, you should have it in a little slip that is like a Faraday cage. So, because men don't wear their cell phone, so you can wear it, but put it in a little Faraday slip. Okay. And then do the grounding, do the nature, do the things that help balance our human electrical field.
Yeah. And
so it's a very, very, unfortunately, like It's a bigger problem than people realize.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I just don't feel like it gets the attention that it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
And people.
And you unpack this in the book.
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. I talk about this, and I talk about what people can do.
Right.
Now, we're getting on let's go back to the immune system. All right. But we're talking about everything that affects the immune system. Okay. So environmental pollutants, we're living in the great poisoning. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know if you know the book Silent Spring by Rachel Carson. She talked about all this in the Nature in the 50s. And then everybody was like, poo-pooed her and said she's crazy. And then now, of course, she's been vindicated.
Yeah.
And so we're living in the great poisoning. So we have to be aware. We have to be aware of what we can do. And there's lots we can do. Like I said, we talked about sauna, we talked about bathing, et cetera, purification. And then there are things that I use for the immune system. Thymosin alpha peptide, for example, is a great help for the immune system.
Alpha,
okay.
Yeah.
I use thymus. I use injectable thymus. I will use, I use a particular formula from Japan that is called BRM4, and it's got rice bran arabinogalactans, along with things to increase natural killer cells, B cells, and T cells. Okay. I use Ganoderma lucidum. I use turkey tail. I use vitamin D, vitamin C, all these things that can incredibly help and enhance the immune system.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I have to use other things like bone marrow support, for example. You can do bone marrow peptides, right? You can do
which are the bone marrow peptides?
Bone marrow peptides I use from a company out of New Zealand called Ancestral Nutrition. But then I also use mitoorganelles, which are actually the life cell extraction from the mitochondria from animals, actually. And just kind of like similar to organ meats, but this is extracted, and it's a company from Malaysia.
Okay.
That they have a formula for thymus, and they have a formula for bone marrow.
And then finally, let's just unpack the diet, because as you said earlier, this is the foundation, right? And I think that most people, there's a saying that the dosage determines the poison, right? I mean, we've all heard that. I don't believe that the dosage determines the poison. I believe that the cumulative dosage can determine the poison, right? Nobody got mercury poisoning from a single piece of tuna fish, right? They got mercury poisoning because they had a small amount of mercury and they ate it over a long period of time, right? So very often it's not the dosage, which I think is a big issue with the way that our regulatory system works. We have these things called generally regarded as safe, the GRAS rules. And it says, well, I can give you a small amount of this toxin with no effect, right? You could probably lick lead paint on a wall and live a happily life if you just did it one time, right? But if you're exposed, or if you're a child that's putting lead-based paint, toys in your mouth and chewing on them, then this can be catastrophic, right? So a lot of these things accumulate over time. And I agree with you. The best defense that we have is our immune system. I mean, a healthy immune system. People with very healthy, strong immune systems don't get cancer and they don't get sick. But what are the general dietary? I mean, I see that you're a fan of meat, which I love that too. I haven't found anything we disagree on. Yeah.
I grew up in Texas. Okay.
We had
our own cows. So.
And you eat organ meats,
yes.
which I still struggle with. Paul Saldino keeps getting me to try to eat raw liver. I'm like, dude, I'll just take your supplement because I can't do the raw liver.
You can sear liver and cook it with onions.
Yeah, but you can't kill the taste. With the onions is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you gotta know how to do liver, but if you do it right, you can get by.
Exactly.
But so what are sort of the general guardrails?
Well, I think this is the most talked about subject, right? And there's not a one size fits all. But I will tell you, like for example, the number one thing you need to eat is real food. Okay, just real food. Okay, so you're going to eat eggs. And you're going to eat meat, and you're going to eat vegetables, and you're going to eat fruits, and you're going to eat good fats.
Right.
Okay.
That's pretty simple.
It's really simple. Yeah. And you get really full if you eat real
produce a lot of GLP-1.
Okay. Exactly. Yeah. And so it doesn't, have to be complicated. I think we're making it all complicated, but it is quite straightforward. All right. And if you eat like our ancestors ate, we talk about meat, people really want to bastardize meat, but meat is a phenomenal source of nutrition and protein and amino acids and zinc and B vitamins and carnitine. So it's very important. I mean, fish is good. Unfortunately, it's a lot of nanoplastics and mercury in fish today.
Yeah.
But lamb, you can do turkey. You can, pick what you like.
Yeah.
And then have good fats, olive oil and butter and ghee and coconut oil and avocados. And then a beautiful array of fruits and vegetables.
Love it.
And then if I have a patient with brain cancer, I will usually prescribe the ketogenic eating program. Okay.
Wow.
Or if a patient has pancreatic cancer, I will use pretty much a strict ketogenic. But again, you always address the patient with the problem, not the problem with the patient. And so you have to address everyone individually.
I agree with that.
Personally, precisely, as opposed to just there's one size fits all, because there really isn't.
So, Dr. Connealy, if my audience wants to know more about you, where do they find you?
Well, a couple of ways is my Instagram is Connealy MD.
Okay. I'll put that in that's Connealy.
That's correct.
Right? Yeah.
And then there is Cancer Center for Healing, and then there's centerfornewmedicine.com.
And you take new patients for cancer?
Yes.
At the Cancer Center for Healing?
At the Cancer Center for Healing.
And where is that located?
That's in Irvine, California.
Okay. And so you take them as soon as they're diagnosed. Is that your preference for?
Well, ideally, I would love patients to come see us for prevention.
Yeah.
Okay. For all diseases.
Yeah.
But that doesn't sell really. Usually people have to be confronted with a serious diagnosis. But I do take any stage of cancer. And obviously, the earlier, the better. And it's very, very important if you are being diagnosed with cancer, that relying on the conventional surgical chemo radiation, it's not a good protocol because every one of those aspects is damaging, inflammatory, immunosuppressive to the system.
Yep.
So you may need one of those or all three of those, but should not do it alone and combine it with all the supportive therapies that are going to help you for the harm and also the side effects.
Yeah, it's almost like we need to care for the host and go after the cancer. I mean,
correct.
Most conventional treatments were just attacking the cancer. We're not really caring for the host. We forget that there's a human being here, and it's okay to try to build them up while you're also trying to tear down the cancer.
And that's with any disease. Think about it. If you have heart disease, right? Most doctors want to prescribe a statin, okay, which comes with this cascade of side effects. But again, this started 10 or 20 years ago, and there's many different factors involved contributing to the disease. So you may need that stent to save your life, but then get to the why, where, when, and how this all happened.
Right. Yeah. Wow. I am so aligned with what you're saying. So I have a special group called the VIP group, and they're the only folks that I let know who's coming on the podcast.
Oh, okay.
And so I let them know that you were coming on the podcast. They have a couple of questions for you. So when the cameras stop rolling, we're going to go into the VIP group, and I'll let them address you directly. If you're interested in becoming a VIP, you can just go over to theultimatehuman.com/VIP and sign up to be a member of my VIP group. This is where I pour myself in to this community. I'm trying to build community of like-minded people to really change the world, to really influence humanity. But I wind down all my podcasts by asking my guests the same question. And there's no right or wrong answer to this question. And that is, what does it mean to you to be an ultimate human?
To live in equanimity every day.
That's a new one.
So
tell me what equanimity is.
Yeah, that is like being
I've heard of equality.
Living in this beautiful, harmonious spirit each and every day.
Yeah.
Yes, we've got to follow the rules and laws of Mother Nature, of the human miracle that we live in. But it's learning how to live effortlessly and peacefully and calmly with everything that you've got to do with each and every day. Like your schedule is very, very busy, and you can easily be stressed.
Yeah.
But the true, goal is to live peacefully, calmly, harmoniously with yourself and with others each and every day.
I agree with that. What a great answer. Well, Dr. Connealy, I'm going to put links to your book in here, and your institute, your Instagram. This has been phenomenal. I really appreciate you coming on The Ultimate Human. I didn't find a single thing that I disagree with you on. In fact, you validated a lot of what my audience is really passionate about. Back to the basics: diet, lifestyle, spiritual well-being, mindset, grounding, breath work, sunlight, whole foods, connection, community. Phenomenal. The fact that you made this transition, if you will, from classically trained MD to, holistic functional medicine provider. I really commend you for that too.
Well, thank you.
So thank
and I
you
appreciate all your efforts, because it will take an entire faction to transform the future of health and humanity.
Well, we're making headway,
We are.
I mean, here we are in Saudi Arabia.
Yes,
They're listening to us
exactly.
here. So it's just absolutely amazing. Well, I hope you come back on the Ultimate Human podcast, and thank you so much for today.
You're welcome.
And guys, until next time, that's just science.